For now, we're going to bring Shawn to the stage. Please welcome him to come and express the beautiful experience that he just shared with us. How you feeling today, Shawn? Have a seat. Come on, funny. Now you got to give us a little bit of how are you feeling right now. This is a warm experience, something beautiful that you've been creating. How are you feeling at this moment?
I'm feeling like
Take your time and take your time.
I'm feeling all the emotions. When I first set out to create this project, I didn't necessarily know how it would affect me or others. I've learned so much, not only about myself, but about a lot of other people and how it affects them over time. But I will say I'm feeling very late. If I could use a certain word to describe.
That's understandable. That's understandable. Thank you for creating this. Thank you for putting this together. It was beautiful. I've gotten to watch it a few times beforehand, but seeing it in this space and in this moment, it brought a lot more impact to the moment. I do want to ask though, what made you want to have your mother hold that crocodile? Where did that come from?
So she did not care for animals at all.
Okay.
And that's the reason I wanted her to hold it.
Understood. You can tell them the picture.
Yeah, it's funny, like that birthday was so monumental because it was like her 55th birthday. So I was like, we have to do something that's memorable, something that's wild. So when we got there, she thought it was just a miniature offering. And then she looked over and was like, wait a minute, what's all these different crocodiles doing? And so at the end, when we got to the last hole, the lady came up with it and she was like, who are you bringing that to? Like, what was that for? And I was like, you. And so she sat down, and it's funny how we got like a quick picture because it was really like 2 seconds that she held it. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know about anybody else in this room. Are y'all hold a crocodile? No, you are? Okay, we got one in the room. Okay. So in creating Understanding Grief, did you ever imagine that it was going to evolve into this masterpiece that has now been created?
Always try and go into things thinking positive, right? So that's the first part of it. But number two, even though I had my expectations high, I did not think that would have the impact. And it's not even out for everyone yet. And I had certain people reaching out to me that I've never even met before off of social media, telling me, hey, you know, my loved one passed 5, 10, and 15 years ago, and I still haven't been able to deal with it. But just seeing your trailer makes me want to take a step forward. And so I never would have thought that it would have that impact. And like I said, it's just the trailer. So
there's definitely more to come.
Yes.
We thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
You touched on some challenges with overcoming grief. And you mentioned that you're doing something to help ease the burden for others.
Yes.
What does that look like? Can you give us a little bit of background on that?
So just the actual Twitty Lee website, along with the trailer and different things on there, I'm going to add a resource page to it.
Okay.
Because I want people to be able to see the different things that I talked about and who they could connect with. I'm not an expert in all aspects of grief because it's so huge, but other people being able to break down certain things. So that's why we have our lovely SMEs here today, so they can give some more insight on that as well.
Okay, so we're going to be creating community. In the midst of that, I would love to have our panelists come to the front so we can dive deeper into this conversation. I'm looking for you, Ishmael, Ms. Monica. We can come down. I'm not sure we should always say something.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to take a quick second and I'm going to allow each of our panelists to introduce themselves real quickly. If you could just pass the mic down and let them introduce themselves and we'll jump right into our questions. All right.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Vickie Jumper and I'm the owner and operator of Southern Comfort Hospice.
Hey everyone, I am Monica McQuaid. I'm a therapist here in Atlanta, Georgia. I work for Love Therapy and I'm the owner of She Be Healing, which is a holistic healing practice.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ishmael Mohammed. I'm with the Law Office of Indy Ali. I'm client liaison and trust specialist at the estate planning law firm. First, I want to say, just give Shawn another round of applause.
All right. Before I jump into any questions, does anyone in the audience have any questions for our legal team? We're actually going to start with Mr. Ishmael. Does anyone have any legal questions? No, one in the back.
If you pass away without a will, does the government really take all your assets, or is there a process where those assets can get to your loved ones? How long will it take?
What's the last part of that question?
Is there a process where those assets can get to your loved ones, and how long will it take?
Yeah, if you die with a will or without a will, all wills go through the probate court process. If you die what we call intestate without a will, that goes through the probate court process as well. What happens in the probate court process will dictate if those assets actually get to the beneficiaries or heirs of your loved one. The probate court process is a process that every court goes through to pass down those assets. We call it an open public forum because it is a hearing, several hearings actually, that happen through that process. And at the end of that process, if your creditors don't take anything, if you haven't lost anything during that time, and there's assets left over, those assets will eventually make it to, hopefully, those heirs. But like Shawn in this documentary was saying, we have to plan before that even happens. It comes to happenstance.
One more question.
Sure.
Let's just say you can't afford an attorney and you write your last minute on a piece of paper. Is that legally binding at all, or no?
I'm going to reject the premise of that question. We should not be doing this anymore. We have access, we have resources, subject matter experts that you can call for free. All our consultations are for free. So there should not be anybody writing anything on a sheet of paper waiting until the last minute. So I'm going to reject that premise. But again, we are reacting. We're reacting to certain things that we know that's going to happen, and we hate to be reactive because everything costs more. The attorney costs more because now you put us in a situation where it's urgent, and most likely we're fighting off other siblings or family members because they're saying that you literally did this to Big Mama's, that's not her signature and things of that nature. So now we're in an adversarial situation with your loved ones. So in short, we just love to pre-plan for those things that can happen. We're all going to pass away. Nobody's going to stay here. So the quicker you get into the law firm, again, for us, all consultations are free. So you have no excuse. Give us a call. We're going to help you out. We give out free information. You just pay us to do the work, or you get enough information to do the work yourself. So there shouldn't be anybody moving forward, and it's our mission statement. All information is free. We want all our community, friends, and family to have this information and these tools necessary to plan for intergenerational wealth with their families. So, but yes, we can litigate anything, but it's going to cost you and your families, a lot. And we want to kind of avoid that. We'll take the money, but you don't have to pay us if you plan.
That's good to know.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you. All right. Does anybody have any questions for Miss Monica? Oh, Miss Monica. I'm sorry. I'm just going to keep going down the road. Does anybody have any questions for Miss Monica? Go ahead.
So how do you help someone find their purpose or their meaning of life after a significant loss of someone?
I think that answer, it goes both ways in time. So there is purpose even in the process of death before that transition is actually made, especially for those that are caretakers, especially. Yes, you are grieving, you're kind of pre-grieving, but you also act as a doula for that person, ushering them into the afterlife. And so there's purpose in that. There's purpose in being someone that comes in afterwards and is caring for the loved ones, the close family, for that person of whom may be very close to the loved one that has passed on. Purpose can be found when you finally allow yourself to let go. And what I mean by that is we can become so codependent on the idea, the concept of that person being in our lives physically, that we don't allow ourselves to live in their absence. So there is no reality that we can actually exist in with them there, because they have transitioned, which means there's no purpose. It's empty. You can't find it because it won't exist. And so when you allow yourself to let go of the idea that they're going to be physically at my graduation, they're going to walk me down the aisle, they're going to be the one that's on mac and cheese duty at the next, family gathering or whatever, and allow yourself, okay, well, who can fix it this time? Do we even want to do that? Do you want to do something else? When you begin to reimagine what the future is and carrying them with you in spirit, then you're able to find your purpose, whatever that may be.
Great answer.
Thank you for that. Am I allowed to ask a question?
Okay. So my question is, because he brought up a very good topic at the very end, is, people that are interacting or there, but they're not the ones, their friend or their whomever has experienced the loss. So really, he said some things not to do, but what do we do? What do we do? Because I lost my husband when I was very young, and I was told, like you, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Who says that? So what do you do? Because I know our chaplains talk a lot about just presence, just being there and not saying anything.
Yes.
I can't do that. I have to say something.
So know yourself and what you can do and what you can't do. Boundaries are very, very important. Understanding your own limitations is also important. You don't want to stretch yourself beyond what you can do, and then you end up causing harm or causing harm to yourself. So in being there, like you said, being present, and so they may have difficulty expressing their needs, or even knowing, I don't even know what I want, or which way's up, which way's down. But they do know when you're making them uncomfortable. So don't assume your role or your position in someone's life. But a good question to ask is, hey, is there something that you need, or can I just come over and sit with you? I got an extra plate. I got some mashed potatoes, some gravies, a little bit of chicken. Do you mind if I bring that over? You hungry? Versus just assuming.
That's good.
I have a question in that. Is there any triggers or potential red flags that we should look out for when dealing with someone or ourselves in grieving, just so that you're at least aware, like, hey, that might not be the most healthiest thing that I'm seeing? Is there anything that we should look out for, and any suggestions on ways that we can assist?
Yes, absolutely. So for those that are closest, maybe you're dealing with the child of someone that has transitioned on, or widow, or someone that was very, very close. Those that are close to that person, you're gonna notice the immediate signs. But if you're also grieving, it can be hard to do that when you're in the midst of grief yourself. So that goes back to understanding your limitations, understanding your ability, your capability. But that looks like someone imploding on themselves. That looks like having difficulty reintegrating back into society. They stop doing the things that they used to do. Difficulty going back to work. Difficulty with hygiene. You come over, you notice like they still in the same clothes you saw them in last time you saw them. Difficulty eating. If they haven't eaten, beginning to lose weight. Of course, substance abuse is a major red flag. You're noticing some physical characteristics that may be indicative of drinking too much alcohol, taking, too many like painkillers, for example, which are readily accessible to sort of manage that pain. Those are going to kind of be your first warning signs. Not getting out of bed for prolonged periods of time. Just signs of neglect or things that you want to begin to look for. Lashing out can be a sign as well.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Now we're gonna pass the microphone. Does anybody have any questions for the hospice? I have a couple, but I will let the audience divulge if they have any. Okay. So let's just say that we have a grandparent or just someone who's getting up in age and they're a little bit hesitant about going into hospice. If that is what the doctors recommend, what are the steps that we can take to at least encourage them that this process will be as peaceful as we can make it?
So that's probably one of the biggest hurdles that we face in hospice, is because it's only been around for about 40 years. We think that hospice has been around since the beginning of time, and it has only been a benefit that is paid for by Medicare for 40 years. And so you have different things that are cultural, in the Black community. We just don't talk about death and dying. We don't trust the healthcare system because of things that have happened in the past. And then we always just are more for life and aggressive treatment. So we get a lot of that. Grandpa does not want hospice. And so what we do is we say, can we just talk to you? Because a lot of times they think that it is removing treatment. You're just going to stop treatment and you're just going to bring in that morphine and just let me die. And I have to tell them, I said, no, it is a level of treatment. You do receive treatment. It's in the home. And the whole plan of care changes from being curative to, how does this make you feel? Does this blood pressure medicine, it makes me so tired. Well, let's stop it and just see what it does. And half the time they feel, when they come on service, if they agree to try it, most of the times within about a month, they're feeling better, because we've gotten rid of all of these medicines that they've been taking 30 medications. They're 90 years old and they're like, I feel stronger. Why do I feel stronger? I'm on hospice. I shouldn't be feeling better. But I tell them, I said, well, you're getting treatment, but we're getting rid of the stuff that, is long term. And so, we do stuff like that. We just say, hey, just give it a try. If you don't like it, you can come off of hospice at any time. But you have to address the cultural fears and be very realistic with them that it's not for the very end as when it was first initiated, about 40 years ago. Medicare specifically does not want for us to get people at the very end, because they feel it's a failure. Because the whole purpose of hospice is to prepare the family for the passing of that loved one, and to prepare the patient for the passing of the loved one, for their passing as well. So it's all about preparation, making sure that everyone is prepared to let go. It still doesn't make it any easier. It doesn't make it any easier, but I think if you understand, it is a little bit better.
I speak on that as well. Yeah. Now, oftentimes in our office, when we're going through the trust process, most people don't realize that the trust process also includes incapacitation documents. These documents are medical power of attorney, advanced healthcare directives, HIPAA, disability panels. The disability panel is literally a group of people that you're around that can actually invoke this panel if they recognize cognitive decline. So basically, we have our trust makers come in, and they're healthy and happy, and they're making these decisions while they're healthy and happy, to have these memorialized for their wishes to happen when they can't speak for themselves. So there's no guessing about what this person wants, like a loved one that may be grieving that comes through. This is what the patient wants. This is what the client wants, and it's memorialized. And so now we have everybody out of the way, and this person is having his wishes granted, even if they can't grant them, if they can't speak for themselves. And so a lot of times when you have that free consultation come in, we talk about incapacitation documents, we talk about hospice, we talk about all these things, so you understand these things while you're healthy and happy. So when those times do, God forbid, come, that they've already been discussed by the family, everybody understands what everybody wants, and there's no really bickering going back and forth, because most of the time, it's not the patient or the client, it's the families around them that's dealing with their own issues when it comes to this process. But if it's memorialized and you know exactly what you want, those trust documents and those incapacitation documents will kick in, and that cuts down so much confusion because you're not arguing with siblings. Oftentimes we have parents, and parents think that their children will kind of do the right thing, but you're removing the referee, the parent, and then you have the pecking order. I'm big sister, your little sister. I'm big brother, your little brother. Those things come into effect. So we try to get the parents in as quickly as possible, all the trust makers, all the clients, all the patients in as quickly as possible. And now we have the person that's saying, this is what I want, this is the writing that these documents are memorialized, and this is what happened. So these advanced healthcare directives and those incapacitation documents are huge because most of us will be incapacitated before we pass away.
So let's just say, what does the process look like when we're bringing someone in, they cannot afford it? I understand that may touch on you somewhat, but they're already there. Or maybe I'm not understanding. Are they coming regardless and we'll figure out the financial part later, or do they have to have that decided beforehand?
So Medicare and Medicaid pays for it at 100%. So you should never receive a bill from a hospice. The only time you would is if it's private insurance and there is a copay. I don't have the guts to bill somebody. I'm sorry. I take whatever the insurance pays me and we call it even, because I just think it's just wrong. I can't send a bill.
I love that.
So, but every hospice, they don't always do it, but we are supposed to provide hospice care regardless of their ability to pay. So if they are indigent, we are supposed to take those patients and provide the same level of care. They get all of the equipment, all of the drugs, all of the incontinence supplies, the staff, everything that a paying patient would.
Okay. I want to touch on that part. What else does hospice offer besides pain management until they do decide to transition?
Well, so it covers all of their equipment, DME, which is critical because most of these patients, as they decline, at some point they're going to need wheelchair, hospital bed. Most of the time, if you are doing that outside of hospice, it takes months. We can get it in 4 hours. Okay, and that's because Medicare waives all of the normal stipulations and the red tape for hospice and says just get them what they need. Okay, so we can bypass all of that. So the equipment, the incontinence supplies, which are huge, them not having to worry about, do I have wipes and gloves and diapers and all of that? We come and we bring it with us. It's huge. And then you get the skilled, the nurses who are assessing the patient. It's at least once a week, but there are times when and he can testify, I'm sure, that it's more. It's according to whenever that patient needs us, we're there. And that includes 2:00 in the morning, whenever, we're there for them. So it's nursing, it's home health aid. They get a social worker for resources and a chaplain for spiritual support. But all of it is overseen by a physician. So, they may not see a physician, but a physician is managing their care. Still. And medications, we do provide all of the medications that are comfort related as well.
Okay. Medicare and Medicaid are two different animals. Medicare, no bill. Medicaid wants their money after the fact. So they will put liens on that person's assets. We see it every day. So you get the care that you need. If it's Medicaid, there's an issue. So we always try to coach our clients, okay, we need to start moving assets out of your individual name into your trust. That way you are indigent, even though your assets are in your trust. That protects it, especially if you have Medicaid. It's called a Medicaid Asset Protection Trust. And so we want to catch you before you even get sick to start moving your assets to that trust. So when you do go in and need these things, if you have Medicaid and not Medicare, there's nothing to attach a lien to. We're protecting what is called asset protection. We're protecting your assets from being attacked by Medicaid, but you still get the same treatment, but those assets pass down to your family for intergenerational wealth. So Medicare, you're good. You've got A, B, or Part C, you're fine. When you don't have that and have Medicaid, you need to call us as soon as possible. And Medicaid also has a 5-year reach back. So you can't do it while you're in the hospital or going into hospice to say, I want a Medicaid Asset Protection Trust, because they go 5 years and reach and look at your assets, and they still can attack those assets moving forward. So I can't stress enough about pre-planning for this and having these conversations, because it's costing our community so much wealth moving forward. And most people don't find out about the Medicaid health lien until they're in probate court or they're trying to sell the house and they realize they have a huge Medicaid lien. And Medicaid last year did third-party billing. So it used to be in-house, but now they've hired outside billing agents to collect their debt. And there's no negotiating those debts at this point. They're very aggressive. So it just behooves you to kind of pre-plan. And the older people get to have assets, you should be coming into the office, moving those assets to protect those, especially if you don't have Medicare.
I agree. I just want to clarify one thing. So he is totally correct. However, for hospice, Medicaid pays for us at 100%. So we accept whatever that is. But he is correct. Our people, unfortunately, we just do not plan. We don't talk about death, and so we don't plan for it. And so everybody, I'm 50. I have to tell. I'm 55. I'm sorry. And I try to talk to my husband every day. I'm like, listen, I want to be cremated. Don't waste money on a funeral, please. And I've laid it out for him, and he insists that I'm going to be buried. And I'm talking to him because I told him, I said, I'm overriding you, but we don't talk about it. And he's like, stop. It's just because you're in hospice. I said, no. I do. It is because I'm in hospice, because I see it all the time where, okay, mama passes and they're like, I thought she had money. I thought, oh my gosh, now we got to call around. I can't even bury her. What am I going to do? And all of that, just like he said, they can't even grieve because now they can't even provide a funeral for their loved one. So to me, at any age, you should be talking with this man to get things lined up, because other people are.
Does anyone else have any questions in the audience? Please go ahead.
I have one question. I think it's for you. I can't remember your name. Monica. I guess, so I lost my mom at 21. And there's this running theme of grief is not linear, it's gonna circle around. How do you process the fear of losing the next person? Because I lost her, then I lost my aunt, and then I lost my paternal grandma, and now there's a running fear that it's not always persistent, but oh no, I'm gonna lose the next person. How do I stay present? What does that look like, I guess? Or if you have any tips or tricks? That.
I don't know about no tricks. I'm going to answer your question with the same word that you're struggling to do, and that's being present in your relationships, working through that fear of abandonment. There were holes that were left when those women exited your life. And you need to address where those holes were left. There's part of it that'll never be filled, because ain't nobody gonna ever replace your mama, ever. Not supposed to. But you do need mother figures in your life. You do need support. You do need your sisters, your brothers, and not just your literal siblings, but community-wise. When you experience loss like that, it feels like the world is picking on you, like fate, like God is picking on you. And it's just like, why me? And what else is next? It's just like with any other, when you're experiencing crisis after crisis after crisis, it's like, what's next? You begin to brace yourself and you don't know how to relax your shoulders. You don't know how to experience the joys of life again for fear that you're going to have to brace yourself and get into, attack mode. So you stay in attack mode, you stay in defense mode. But what I will say is, again, with that reintegrating back into your life and what that means, you don't want to spend your days thinking about the last of either yours or someone else that's close to you. Death is a natural part of life. Can't nothing save anybody from that. But there's ways to embrace that to where it isn't the big scary thing, and that past death has been potentially scary for you because you weren't ready. You still needed that continued nurturing care of your mother. You still maybe needed that grandmotherly love that it's so precious. But I encourage you to speak with someone about where those gaps may be for you that you can give a little soil to. Again, nothing's going to completely fill that. And also, grabbing a hold of what joy means to you and what life means to you so that you can begin to live it again.
Can I ask you a question? When do you know that you need to see a therapist? At one point in the grieving process, do you say, I need to, like he came to that conclusion at some point and said, I need some help. How do you know when that time is?
When it's debilitating, absolutely seek help. I would actually encourage people to seek help before someone transitions if you can. Sometimes we don't know. Sometimes things, it happens, and it happens in such a windfall that we don't even have time to grab a hold of reality. But if you do, start therapy. I have clients now just like, I'm a caretaker for grandma, I'm a caretaker for aunt with dementia, Alzheimer's. Start beforehand. Start as soon as you know that someone is getting ready to transition or could dealing with something that could potentially be fatal. And we hope that they pull through, but you need help to deal with that. And being a caretaker it's a unique type of stress that we undervalue that position oftentimes, because a lot of times Black women take that on and being the caretakers of our families. But when you're caring for someone that is preparing to transition on, regardless of your gender, that is such a unique position, and you need people. You need your spiritual leader. You need your therapist. You need your team that is going to be there for you and support you. Actually be there for you. I don't care if it's 2-3 people. You ain't gotta have a whole lot of people. I don't recommend it, actually. People talk too much. So get therapy as soon as you know that you may be dealing with something difficult. Seek therapy as soon as something difficult happens. You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait till you get to that debilitating point, but oftentimes that's when people get the cue that, okay, I need to talk to somebody because I can't take it anymore. I can't take waking up anymore. I can't take going to work. I can't take, having another conversation or trying to just have another day. But you don't have to get there before you seek help.
I was going to just add to that, just briefly, that in America, we're so used to saying, I'm okay. I'm okay. How you doing? I'm fine. I'm fine. I think we all need to get to the point where we accept that it's okay to say, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. I'm struggling here. And that way, whoever your friends are or whatever can say, maybe you need to talk to somebody. And like he said, which was one of the things I wrote down when I first saw the documentary, was saying it, talking about it, was so released, was so cathartic for him. He was like, once I started opening up and saying, okay, I'm hurting here, bad. And then he was able to get the help that he needed. So just, it's okay to not be okay.
I have a question. And why do you think there's often a stigma around expressing grief and sadness, as if it is a sign of weakness?
I think we could answer that.
We don't hold place for emotions in general. We can start there. It's you attend a funeral, you cry, you attend the repast, and then we done. Sometimes your grieving process ain't even started yet. And people don't know how to respond. It makes them uncomfortable. You're experiencing this condition called grief, and I can't just say, there's nothing for me to just give you or say, and it's all right. That's very uncomfortable for people. If there is a problem that there isn't a direct solution to, it makes people uncomfortable because it means that they have to sit there in that and be present. Sometimes in quiet, sometimes the grief can look like, okay, we're joking and laughing and having fun, and maybe that's just what they need in that moment, but it's still very uncomfortable for the person because, okay, this person is in a state of grief. Is this okay? Is it, you're questioning it. It doesn't, it's uncomfortable. But just imagine how uncomfortable it is for the person that's actually experiencing the grief. You get to go and you go home and go about your life, but they're still in that. So grief is such a, I don't want to give it, I don't want to say taboo. We don't talk about it. We just don't talk about it. Therefore, we don't have the modalities in place to cope, to hold space for it, at least not at large. Now, in certain cultures and certain subgroups, even within the African American community, yes, we do have certain processes, certain things that we do that welcome grief. You got the wailers, you got second line, and all of that even celebrate grief, because grief ain't always got to be sad. Like, that's the thing too. So, just talking about it, having the conversation when we're not at ground zero of grief, can help.
I appreciate. Oh, I'm so sorry.
So my family recently buried my grandfather. We just celebrated the death of his burial like a couple days ago. And it was my grandmother's husband. They were married for would have been 50 years together. How do you, I want to say, I'm to the point where my grandmother has gone into this state where she's borderline depressed because she's grieving so hard from losing her husband. That was her world. So how do you, I try the best that I can to be there for her, because I can't, even though that was my grandfather, I will never understand because it wasn't my husband in 50 years. So how do I basically be there for her?
I don't know exactly what you may be doing or how you may be showing up for her. Just being around is something. If you're able to go, if she, I don't know the exact relationship that you have, but just taking things off of her hands can sometimes be a help. Why should she have to worry about taking out the trash? Why should she have to worry about, every day making sure that there's food in the fridge? Especially if y'all know what type of groceries she like, and she okay with you doing her grocery shopping. Some people are real particular about that. So, ask permission, and then, do her grocery shopping for her. It's things like that that can alleviate the everyday kind of woes of life, that can allow her more space for whatever process she may be going through. If she's a spiritual woman, engaging in those practices with her. If she's the type that sits and prays with her Bible and, doesn't mind you joining with her, but joining in her in that praise and worship or just connecting with God can be important too.
I also want to add too that sometimes, especially when it's a partner and they've been together for 50 years, and they lose that, they've lost their whole identity, and so sometimes they need an antidepressant. It is what it is, and so that might be something that she should seek out therapy too. But if you see she's really struggling, give her the support medicinally to be able to get through this. And it can just be a temporary, thing of maybe 6 months, just while she's processing things. So I'm an MP2 as well, so I have done the medicinal treatment just on a temporary basis as well.
Just from a practical sense, when these events, unfortunate events happen, there's also a practical sense of what needs to be done from a family's point of view. For instance, we have a young family, husband, wife, husband. Wife predeceases husband, or husband predeceases wife, and they have minor children. There's grief involved, of course, but there's also some things that you can practically do. Going back to the young lady's previous comment about, okay, so it's only one parent left now. So you need some guardianship papers, because God forbid something happens to the mother, where do those minor children go? So those practical things and plans that need to take place based on whatever your family dynamic is. For instance, older woman loses her husband of 50 years. There's practical things that need to start happening from the family's point of view, of making sure that you don't grieve twice by losing your mother and she lost her husband, and now y'all losing assets. So we never, the financial part we don't talk about, that's a second grieving because you lost the person, and now you're going through the fact of losing their assets as well. And most families don't make it back from that. And often we don't talk about that because now the family's fighting because you have to blame somebody, right? and then so now you have, you lost the parents or the loved one, and now you lose other people that are living because now y'all can't stand each other. Yeah. We often talk about grief. We have a couple of G's in our office we talk about as well. It's like grief, then there's greed, then expect, get her before I get her. So, wow. So no, that really happens, and then most of the time we've been taught to grieve by literally doing some of the most backwards things, fighting, drinking, self-medicating. We've all dealt with this as African Americans in our community where, you see this thing happens, like, the arguing, the GoFundMes, and that's how we've been taught. So we're trying to change that narrative by giving plans moving forward. And so people don't have to deal with that. But there's always a practical, engagement of marriage when you lose somebody, because the family dynamic has changed. Thus, the family estate plan should change accordingly.
I do want to say, I love the space that we are holding for each other right now, but I want to make sure that we do not get any more interruptions. So I thank you for our panelists. They will be here to discuss with you all out in the lobby. I'm going to let Shawn take the last couple of minutes just to give his final remarks before we have to go. I thank you all for coming out and showing support for this beautiful film that was created. And I appreciate holding space with you all in this energy, because we don't get to do this often as a community. So thank you all for showing up and taking time. I hope that you all get home safely and enjoy your evenings. And I'll give it away to Shawn.
Thank you. The first part I will say is thank you to everyone from the wonderful SMEs, to everyone who showed up tonight. I greatly appreciate it. I wanted everyone to see the documentary. Of course, it's a private screening, but as you can tell, I'm trying to start a movement. It's more than just a doc. It's about, like it said, just educating our community. Of course, Monica, we spoke about bringing awareness, and of course, you too, Ms. Vickie, just about people understanding, having a relationship or understanding the loved one that's about to go. So, like I said, thank you to everyone who showed up tonight. You could have been anywhere, but you came here. I hope you all enjoyed yourselves. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you.